right, Donnell, are you ready?
Ready as I'm gonna get.
It's time. Wait a minute. There we go. Forgot you had to turn the volume on. How's your headset? Good?
It's good. It's good. How's yours?
Good. I'm vibing. Alrighty. Welcome back to Two Baltimorons. My name's Christian Olson. We are sitting here with...
Donnell Jenkins.
Yes, sir. Welcome. So this is your first time on the podcast. For those of you that don't know, Donnell is one of the newer agents on our team. You've been with us for a month, 2 months,
about
almost?
a month and a half.
Okay. And had you done anything real estate related prior to joining our team?
None at all.
Nothing. Okay. What are some of the other fields of work that you had previously done, and how come you ended up getting into real estate?
I was traveling, doing like retail merchandising and everything.
Okay.
One of the reasons I got into real estate because I wanted to basically find a career where I got out what I put in, basically.
Okay, so kind of like running your own business seemed kind of attractive to you, and then real estate was one of those avenues that you could explore a little bit.
Right.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the team. Welcome to the podcast. Hoping to have some fun here. So what we typically do, talk about our blog post, and we're going to dive into a video here. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Opening clip.
There are 5 things to absolutely not do when you're under contract to purchase your home. Your credit and debt to income ratio will be checked multiple times during the process, and if either of these change, it could lead to a potential denial of your mortgage application. Number 1, don't change jobs, become self-employed, or quit your job. Number 2, don't, under any circumstances, make any large purchases, even if you aren't financing the purchase. Number 3, don't fall behind on any payments. Number 4, don't spend money you have set aside for closing. That Vegas trip can wait. And last but not least, don't deposit any large sums of cash. The last thing we want is the bank thinking you're a drug dealer.
Or an OnlyFans model. So you're new to real estate. Have you heard any of this stuff before?
No, I really haven't.
Okay. Have you purchased a home yourself before?
I haven't.
No? Okay. So basically what he's saying is all 100% true. There are some things that you should not do when you're under contract on a home, and a lot of them, basically every single one is what he had said. Don't change your jobs, right? I've even had a time where one of my clients, he was under contract on a house, changed jobs and was making more money, but the more money that he was making was classified as like overtime, so it wasn't his standard pay. Even though he got like a little bit of bump, he really got the bump up in his overtime pay. And at this new job, it looked like he was making more, but when he went to go provide this stuff to his lender, he could barely get by on the skin of his teeth, like with his approval and with the property, just because he had changed jobs. Now, we are considered 1099 contractors. You know that, right?
Yes.
So like we are contracted by EXP Realty. That's the brokerage that we work under. We run our own business through them, right? So for us to go to apply for a new home, we need 2 years of work history, right? So I got into the business like middle of 2021, and now I'm getting into the part of where I want to buy a house because I've built up the work history. It took me like, I think I'm technically on my 3rd year, but I wanted to have a certain amount of income made so that when I went to go qualify with Ryan, that it would say, hey, I made this amount of money and I could qualify for this amount of a house, rather than if I just took my first 2 years and my first year was like 6-8 months and I made 20 grand, right?
Right.
So it just takes time. And then when you're under contract on a home and you go from a W-2 employee to a 1099, I mean, they're not going to know in the hell whatever you make, right? You can make $0 1 month. You can make $0 for 3 months, right? So that's why it's important not to do those things when you are under contract on a house. So the more you know.
Right.
All right. What are some of the other ones that he had said here?
5 things to absolutely not do.
It was the job. Ooh. Don't open up any new lines of credit. Have you heard that one before?
Yes, I heard that one before.
So like you would say like, don't open up a new credit card. Don't rack up your credit card. Don't get a new car. Don't finance a whole bunch of furniture because they're having a President's Day sale, right? You know, all those TV commercials where it's like the big screen store, President Day sale, 0% financing for 12 months. Come in right now or call our number. You seen those?
Yes.
So like, do not do that, right? Because then that line of credit that you now open, even though you're financing a TV for, it could be 6 months, 12 months, however long you do that, it's going to show up on your credit report. And when you go for a formal application with your lender, or even when they check your credit lines for the final approval and underwriting, when you're a couple days away from settlement, if that comes up, it could throw things off.
Okay, can paying down it?
So that's actually a very good question. It's tough because I'm not a lender, right? So I don't want to give lending advice. But from my experience, I've had a client with the job. I've had a client that actually financed some furniture, even though her lender told her not to. And it was the same thing, like a Labor Day sale, President's Day sale, something like that. And I woke up one Monday morning and I was coming to the office and the lender calls me and is like furious because they had got like her and the client. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the lender, but she wanted to use him. They had gotten into an argument about this. Like, what do you mean? I might not qualify for the home. I got this furniture, blah, 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 blah. And like it threw off all of her stuff, their whole file. So they had to redo it in a couple of days to get it to closing. She ended up getting to closing, but I think what they had to do is pay it off to do that. And I don't know how much furniture she bought. I would imagine probably between $1,000 and like $3,000.
Right.
Right. But like you're paying for closing, you're paying for your down payment, and then you go and finance furniture that you think you're not going to have to pay anything on for a couple months. And then next thing you know, your lender's telling you got to pay this off now. Well, what if she didn't have the money? You're shit out of luck.
Right.
Then you have to start looking at other ways. How can you still get the deal done? Or then you're out of contract. So it's a little trickier than like, can you pay it down? I mean, you could, but like I have a loan on my car. There's maybe 20,000 left, right? It's still the same monthly payment, whether there's 20,000 left or 10,000 left. So it doesn't matter if I throw 10 grand at it and the balance is now 10,000, it's still going to be the same monthly payment. So that credit line isn't off of my credit or off of my report until it's completely paid off. So that's why if you pay it down, it might not really have an effect because you're still going to be paying however it is monthly, right? Or when that loan does kick in, you're going to be paying that amount monthly. So it's a little difficult to say. And like the best thing that you can do is not to just don't do it at all. I literally tell people once you sign on the dotted line of your house, like we're at title and they're like, all right, sign this. Oh, you did it. You can get in the car and go to Best Buy. You can go to Crate and Barrel, finance as much furniture as you want, but do not do it when you're under contract.
It's good to know.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. And like, a lot of people don't know that. And for those of you listening and even Donnell, like we make those like 10 commandment cards. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it has like the things that you should not do, or maybe, I think there are even some things that you should do that are on them or like good practices. And that is one of the ones that I harp on about because it's so exciting buying a new home. And then like, if you don't know not to do that and you do it, you kind of just ruin your dreams or your goals, for lack of a better term. Right. So those are just a few things that you can do to, I guess, the things that you shouldn't do to keep purchasing the house that you're under contract on. And if you have any questions, like if you're changing a job, if you're serious about getting to the market and you're not sure about how some of these things would affect you, the best thing you can do is chat with your lender or even chat with a professional like me, Donnell, or anybody here on our team. You know, we would be able to point you in the right direction and just kind of be a resource for you, right? But going into today's topic, 5 issues that could delay your real estate closing. Outside of that, do you know of any?
Not right off the top of my head.
Okay. Let's see. So buyer's financing. What do you know about buyer's financing? What could be a challenge in the financing period of a buyer? Do you know?
The credit.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe even them trying to figure out how they're going to pay the commission of it.
Okay, certainly. There's so many things, right? So your credit could be one. You could say your out-of-pocket expense, how you're going to compensate your agent, how you're going to compensate your lender, how are you going to afford this home? And you know what that kind of falls under? It's one big like word that I'm looking for. It's just qualifying for the house, right? So like you're going to need credit to qualify. You're going to need some sort of cash to purchase the house, whether it be just your earnest money or even your inspection or your appraisal. Appraisal is just $600, right? So challenges in the buyer's financing could just be keeping them qualified throughout like being under contract, right? While the property is pending, because you have your pre-approval, right? It could say I'm approved to buy a $400,000 house. But again, what if my credit comes back when I'm in the middle of the contract and it's not good anymore? And now I don't qualify for the grant funds that I was going to be able to use previously. Challenges with the buyer's financing could also be like, what if you are using a VA loan and there's like active termites and damage and stuff like that? Well, now you and the seller have to kind of hash that out. Right. So I'm just kind of like casting like a really wide net here. Like, hey, what are some things that would be tied to somebody's, financing, whether it be conventional, VA, FHA, USDA, or anything else, right? There's, I think, a whole bunch of hoops that people need to go through. But I'd say the biggest thing that you need to know, or that you should live by when you're purchasing a house, is just work with people that you trust. They'll lead you in the right direction, right? Just so people know, I mean, you've been in the business now for a month and a half, on our team for a month and a half. When did you exactly get your license?
I want to say it was March or April.
Okay, so earlier this year.
Yes.
Okay, and what were you doing? Were you making as many calls as you are today when you?
No, no, not at all.
It is impressive. It is impressive. Donnell sits upstairs and probably makes anywhere from like 80 to 100 phone calls a day, which is amazing. We love to see it, and like he's putting in the time, he's putting in the effort and the work, and you've had actually a couple listing appointments since you've joined our team. Isn't it like probably like 2?
Right, and I have one tomorrow.
Oh, legit, up top. That's exciting. That's exciting. Where's this one at?
This one's out in Rising Sun, I believe it is.
Oh, the one that you had showed me?
No,
or is that a different one? A different one?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to have to get on this expire train with you. Like, that's wild. That's awesome. Congratulations. And what have you been doing to like learn about real estate and how to talk to people? What is it like selling a home? What is it like going through expires? Anything that you've learned or anything that you've taken away over the past like month and a half since things have really started to ramp up for you?
Learning the scripts, really. Asking questions from a team lead and team.
Yeah.
And just sticking to it.
That's exciting. Yeah. Scripting has been probably the number one thing that's helped me get by, just knowing how to talk to people. But also, like, I try not to be salesy, and I don't think I really am, but at some point you have to sell yourself and you have to be confident. You have to be able to walk in and handle anything that they throw at you, even though it sounds kind of like cringe, right? But just how I was saying, like, call an expired or even a lead that you didn't talk to, call them 3 times in a row. And when they answer, like, "What, Christian, why the fuck are you calling me 3 times in a row?" Sorry, I was trying to leave a voicemail, but it just kept getting disconnected. And they're like, that happens. And then you just carry on a conversation. Just before this podcast, I was telling Donnell, I called someone, and shout out to J-Bond for the strategy. I called someone twice from my CRM phone number. They did not answer. And then called them a third time from my cell. I was like, "Hey, it's Christian Olson." Again, tried leaving a voicemail, but it just got disconnected. We had spoken a couple months back, and we had a 10-minute conversation. He opened up and told me everything, what he's been up to. His wife may or may not retire now. They were looking to put it on the market and buy a new house if she was going to retire. But now her work has offered her like a raise or a new position that's going to make her more money. And she just works from home. So she's like, why not ride this out? Right. So now she's debating, does she want this job or does she not? And then I was like, okay, what's a new timeline for you when she should know by? And then he just, again, opened up and told us everything. So scripting, I'm with you there. It has really taught me so much about real estate and helped me understand how to talk to people and in the role or position that we have in the world, right? And ultimately, it's helping you get 3-4 listing appointments in a month and a half, which is really exciting.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, good luck with that. And then now, when you go over there, you can tell, hey, here's some challenges that you might face with buyer's financing. It's like, I wouldn't go into that. That's later on down the line. But have you heard of an appraisal before?
I have heard about it.
Okay. Do you know what happens with an appraisal?
Just appraiser comes in and appraises the value, and if it underappraises, then you can you can meet in the middle.
Okay.
They can meet in the middle, or you can withdraw from that.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect answer. I think there's one other part. So you could meet in the middle, or you could come up to some sort of decided amount of like what the buyer may bring or what the seller may bring, or you could even lower the price, right? That's probably your main couple of options. But if you can't come to some sort of agreement, you could certainly terminate the contract as the buyer, and you would get your earnest money deposit back, right? An appraisal goes out there, and he looks for health and safety concerns, but also assigns a value to the property. So yeah, they look at like square footage. They look at, if the property has a fence or whatever else might add value to the house, right? but then they also look for health and safety concerns. So like, as you've heard in some of our meetings before, if there's like a loose handrail or a non-existent handrail on some steps, something as small as that, and that's maybe $100, $200 repair, if even that, can hold back a deal, right? And so like, that's why people are so annoying about VA loans and accepting a VA loan offer, is because sometimes the VA is a little bit more stricter on their guidelines. But like, I set the expectation with either my seller or my buyer when we're walking through a property or putting their house on the market or writing an offer. Like, I had a client, Alec Brown, 2 months ago. There was not a hand railing on the front porch. It was a very small portion, bigger than this table, but more square, right? And immediately when we walked into the property, he was talking about, oh, is there anything here that the VA is not going to allow? It's like, no, I mean, the property's like move-in ready, but the only thing that's going to come up, and I can promise you it's going to come up, is the hand railing out front. And some sellers and some agents will be sticklers about it and not accept your offer because it. But I find that to be very, very annoying. Like, we wrote a very competitive offer. Ours got accepted, by the way, but we write very, very competitive offers just for them to come back and say, oh, this $200 repair, the VA is going to, there's no handrail here, they're going to cancel the Like, no. Let's use our level head here and understand the reality of it. Like, the VA comes back and says there's going to be one. Okay, it's a $200 repair, right? You're going to fix it for a conventional loan. You're going to fix it for whatever, even though it may or may not come up. But like, what if the other buyer asks for like 80 other repairs outside of what that appraiser is going to say, right? Maybe they get their home inspection back. They're like, oh, I want to fix that light switch, that door handle, like simple stuff. But just because the VA alone is going to say, hey, you need a handrail here, you're going to cry about it and you're going to make it a big deal, right? So going back to just an appraisal's home value, yeah, it can come in either above, at price, or lower. And honestly, I tell people every single time, like, they're like, Christian, what happens if it comes in high? What happens if it comes at price? What happens if it comes in lower? And they're like, what do we do? And I'm like, shoot, I mean, am I buying the pizza and beer, or are you buying the pizza and beer for every single one of those cases, right? Because if it comes in higher, you're like, oh, awesome, I got a deal, right? I just bought this $350,000 house for $375,000, right? Then if it comes in at price, okay, cool, I didn't overpay, right? If I bought this $350,000 house for $350,000 and it appraised for that, awesome, I didn't overpay, I'm good to go. Let's keep things moving. If it comes in under, why do you think that's exciting?
Because it's possibly that the price will drop.
There you go. There you go. So we get really excited about that, and especially me and Mike, when the appraisal comes in lower, because now you get the opportunity to get the house for less, right? And I would say it probably 90 to 99% of the time we're able to lower that price, right? It's fantastic. You know, a lot of people will get like buyer's agents or even buyers will be like, oh my God, it's going to underappraise. What's going to happen? Oh my God, I'm not going to get the house. It's going to be an awful transaction and worst investment of my life. I'm like, what do you mean? Your monthly payment just dropped, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks, and you don't have to spend 10 grand more on the house. You're getting over $340 now, right?
Right.
So I think it's a wonderful opportunity no matter how you look at it, right? Because you're either saving money, you didn't overspend, or you got a deal. So like, where's the negativity in that? I would love somebody, I would love for somebody to come back and tell me. Maybe when you get on the seller side, maybe it's a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess maybe more risk with an appraisal, right? Because you want to list it at a certain amount, you want to sell it for the most amount, and then if it doesn't hit that appraised value where your sale price is, then your seller might not net as much money, right? But that's when you get into like appraisal gap coverages that say, hey, the buyer's going to pay an appraisal gap up to this amount. They come short in X, Y, Z. It's a whole thing. But yeah, any thoughts about appraisal?
None at all.
No. I feel like typically when Mike's here, he's sitting here, I'm sitting there, and like I feel like the roles are reversed because I'm always just like sitting to Mike, like learning so much. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And I feel like now this is how Mike feels, and then he's like the role with me, which is awesome. It's cool.
How the turntables.
Yeah, right. Right. But there's so much information, and actually, this would be a really good question. What is one thing, like if you had to give advice to a new agent? I mean, you're a month and a half in. What would it be? Like if there was one thing, and I'm just going to stand up because I like standing up sometimes. what would that one thing be that you could recommend to a brand new agent, just based off of your experience alone?
Well, there can't be just one thing. I'm gonna just give two.
All right, I'm about it.
First is going to be learn your scripts.
Okay.
And then the second thing is going to be follow up. Continue to follow up with your people.
Okay. And where did you hear this stuff from, or what has really like embedded that into you?
My team.
Okay, legit. There you go. Hey, we're doing the right thing here. So like, yeah, I would agree with you. Like learning your scripts, again, we've kind of already talked about that, but the follow-up game is so important, right? Like you don't want any leads to go and die. Literally and figuratively, I guess, right? That sounded kind of crazy. But, for people that aren't in a sales industry or an industry like this, when a lead goes to die, what that means is just like, hey, they're not responsive. You haven't done your job. You want to stay on top of these people, keep the relationship, and ultimately, hopefully, help you convert later on down the line. Now, there's a couple other things on here, like problems with the money transfer, like towards the end of closing. Like if I'm a buyer and I have to bring 20 grand to the table to buy it, obviously I have to wire that over before I can get the keys. Sometimes there can be some hiccups there, but I haven't really run into that issue. Even when buyers have walked into settlement and the settlement officer is like, hey, did you wire the money? And they're like, what money? And not that it's a bad thing. They just didn't know they had to wire it at that time, or they didn't get the instructions or something like that. And then they're just at the table and they're like, all right, I got to wire 20 grand. Click, good. But the lender's already like shown their assets, if you will, right? So we know that they have the money. It's not like this new money that they have to come up with. Right. They just hadn't wired it yet. I feel like it's very rare that you get to the final table and they have no idea that they have to bring any money at all, right? Like that would be wild because a lot of that will fall on the lender. Right. I talk about it with them every now and then like as we get closer, I'm like, hey, yeah, don't forget to wire the money. But the conversation should really come from like lender and title, like what they need to bring, and when they should wire some things. Right. Ugly revelations during the final walkthrough. You know what a final walkthrough is?
Before the closing table. Correct?
There you go. Nailed it. So you get to walk through the house, make sure it's in the same marketable condition as when you wrote the offer. And you also get to look to see if any repairs that you had asked for had been made. You also get like a licensed contractor receipt for those repairs. So even if you can't see on top of the roof, like it's been done and you have the licensed contractor number, contact information. But again, you get to walk through to make sure it's in the same condition. Some funny things that I like to do, and I like to say is like, oh, let's make sure a tree hasn't fallen on it, right? House is still there. I also like to run some of the sinks, make sure the hot water still works, so there's no new leaks. And then I play with the thermostat and just do a good walkthrough of the property. I'm trying to think if I've had any like disastrous final walkthroughs where it got like really, really ugly. Liv, can you think of any that Mike had?
What?
Like a very, very bad walkthrough.
I have. Well, I don't necessarily think it's a bad walkthrough, but I have a good example of one that went badly.
Okay. Do you want to
tell it, or do you want me to go over there and tell it?
I just turn the mic around. You don't have to, I don't know if you're going to be on camera or not. But
I mean, if it's going to be awkward if I'm not at this point.
Or just come on Donnell's side then.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to be on camera because I can't see. All right, I'll tell Mike's story for him. Yeah, you can stay there. I'll tell Mike's story for him about, do you know about Jared Rappelschmidt?
No.
Okay, so this is when I first started working with Mike, and we were
So this had to have been like 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
2020. Maybe 2021 at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, so Mike was the listing agent actually. So we were representing the seller, who's Jared Rappelschmidt.
Okay.
And these people were buying his house. And they did the final walkthrough. And that morning when Jared woke up, the air conditioning had stopped working.
Oh, I do.
You remember this?
I kind of remember this. I don't know how it played out, so keep going.
And so the buyer, so he called Mike and he was like, the air conditioner is not working. And Mike was like, okay, well, technically the inspector said that at a walkthrough, you have to have your house in the same marketable condition as when they wrote the offer. And when the inspector went through, he said, this air conditioning unit is 20 years old and could break at literally any moment. So technically it chose that moment to break, but it is in the same marketable condition. So that was Mike's argument. So obviously they get to the closing table. The buyer is there. The buyer's mother is there. The buyer's agent is there. God. They're furious. They're screaming at Mike. Mike is like on the phone. He's not even there. He's on the phone. Cool, calm, collected. I think he made the buyer's agent cry and they left the room. Like this was like a crazy time. But he was like, I'm like, it's in the same marketable condition. What do you want to do? Do you want to
Yeah.
walk away? Like, what are we going to do here? And they ended up working out a deal because Jared is like a really chill, cool guy. And the buyer was actually a really cool guy. Like, he was really young.
Yeah.
And so Jared talked to the buyer. He's like, everybody leave except for me and the buyer. I just want to be alone with him. And he was like, hey, bro, let's split this 50-50. And the guy was like, cool, no problem.
Typically, when buyers and sellers have contact with each other, it does not.
It's not like that at all.
No.
So then, so they split it 50-50. The deal closed that day, and like everyone was happy. Everyone got what they wanted. So
And what was the seller's name?
Jared.
Hey, shout out to Jared.
And he, I think he rents his new house with us. But anyways, he's a great guy. And like, honest, but that's when I first started working with Mike, and it was like one of my first experiences, like with a settlement and like everything. Like I was like new to like all of it. But then, and when I first started working there, I didn't know much about real estate. But then watching that happen, I was like, oh, that's why you get a good realtor.
Yeah. Because Mike went to the bat. He was like, no. Like, say what you want about Mike, but he did not let them walk. He was like, no, like, we're not paying for it. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I was like, all right. That's what a realtor is.
That is what a good agent does, right?
So I think that's
all the like BS of it and the emotions. A very good example. Mike's going to bat for his clients, and he's hanging in there, have their interest as a priority. And it's a very similar example that I had recently. Spruce Tree Lane, Linda Jackson. So we sold her house in Upper Marlboro. And when you have a property that's furnished, right, you can't see all the carpet stains or like blemishes maybe behind the bed, like chips of paint. And it wasn't anything crazy. Like there was a couple stains in the carpet. And for the final walkthrough, the agent, it didn't make any sense at all. Like he didn't have any pictures of it. His phone was dead for the walkthrough. And I'm like, bro, were you in there? Like what was going on? But then he was like, all right, I'm going to go back to get some pictures and send them to you. And then he was demanding for like 3 carpet stains that the property wasn't deliverable for settlement. And he wanted us to give them $1,000 for 3 minor carpet stains. And I literally hit him with the same thing that Mike did. I was like, look, the property is in the same marketable condition as when you wrote the offer. These things aren't new. It's not our problem that you didn't do your due diligence or set the expectation with your buyer about buying a property that has furniture in it, because you can't see under the bed. You can't lift everything up and move around, see what's under, behind, everything, right? There's an area of, okay, maybe, but you're not going to be able to move everybody's furniture and their belongings when you're in the house. So I basically said, like, if we're delivering it in the same market condition as when you wrote the offer, nothing has changed about the property. Your buyer either has the ability to sign and close on their house tomorrow, or they can terminate the contract and forfeit their, a couple $1,000 EMD. And he didn't say anything back. And then 24 hours later, they do sell, and he texts me afterwards and buyer sign. It's like, damn right they did. Right? So like having an agent that's going to go to bat for you, that is, I think, the value in this industry entirely. Right? Like let the professional do their job. Let someone that's vetted and like knows what they're doing. And, even if it's like I know Mike has talked to you about like being a new agent, even sharing that with people. Like, hey, look, like my team has all this experience. We sold 100 homes. If there's anything that we need, they also have my back. They also have your back, right? So like, even for new agents, like you lean into that, right? But having people that you can trust and that know these things and know how to work it are priceless, I would say. But you'll get some stories. There's some wild ones out there. I have some that aren't related to a final walkthrough. But, we got some other questions here. Let's see. Appraisal gaps, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what else. Have you ever had a settlement delayed? I've had a few. My fair share. Multiple reasons. Trying to think. Some got delayed just because the lender and title weren't ready, right? Like people are balancing numbers. People are, lenders can be slow. Again, work with people that you trust. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the blog today. Like there's some good content here. If you haven't already checked it out, I'd say go to our website, frankolivercode.com/blog, and you can read all about it here. There's some really good information. Liv writes it up every week. And then I also send out a Monday morning kind of blog summary, if you will, but then also events that are happening around and even some updates on mortgage rates. So if you're interested in getting on that, let us know. There's also a couple events coming up that Liv has posted here. We have our upcoming movie night here at the Frank Oliver Collective headquarters, Friday, September 13th at 7 p.m. We're voting on movies still, and if you don't vote for Jumanji, you're kind of a loser, in my opinion. So vote for Jumanji. What are you voting for?
No, Jumanji.
There you go. Voting for Jumanji, Liv?
Jumanji.
There we go. See, we're all winners here. All right. So if you haven't already registered for that, you can go to, I think, Eventbrite as well, where you can also send us a message. I'll get you the link. And then we also have a wild water splash day at the Maryland Zoo. Celebrate the end of summer with water slides, splash pads, and animal-themed activities at the Maryland Zoo in Baltimore. This event runs both Saturday and Sunday, offering fun for families and kids. That sounds like a blast. Have you ever been to the Baltimore Zoo?
No, I have not.
Have you? You've been to the Baltimore?
Yeah, the one that's right there.
Yeah, okay. I've never really asked that.
It's smaller, but I like that they have white tigers and they have polar bears.
Snap, okay. I haven't been to the Baltimore Zoo in,
Polar bears are lit.
I don't know, about 8 years. I
Yeah.
always loved the DC.
The DC Zoo is great, but there's no polar bears.
Really?
No? We don't got polar
They have
bears in
pandas, though, I
DC.
think.
They have pandas, but they went away, but I think they're back now.
Okay, there you
Yeah.
go.
They were like,
The trafficking pandas, okay.
They
Come
are.
on. I'm just
they
kidding.
do.
But anyways, you guys check out our blog, check out our events. We'll love to have you out. My name is Christian Olson with EXP and the Frank Oliver Collective. You can find me on Instagram at Christian the Deadhead. Again, you can also go to our website, www.frankoliverco.com. And Donnell, how can they reach you?
They can reach me on Instagram at Donnell at EXP Realty. And my phone number is 410-453-8735.
Plug it up. Let's go. Alrighty. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.
What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. For more information on the housing market, Real Estate 101, how you can leverage your position in today's market, and so much more, click on the link below. If you like this video or have a burning real estate question you'd like us to answer, leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you again real soon.